All right, everybody, it's close enough. 1 minute early. Everybody's here. Mr. Bonfels is stuck in some city, someplace. He's online, so. Hey, Jim.
Hello, thank you very much.
Yeah. And Carla is not feeling well, so she's online also. And why don't we go ahead and, let's see, I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, board member comments. I'll go first. The last three committee meetings, I think, were the best committee meetings we've ever had. The presentations were perfect, all three of them. Rather than individualize who the people were, everybody just know that, I mean, they were succinct, they were just great. It was very informative. I learned something in each one. And so anyway, if you could tell staff, please pass it on. And let's all hope for Brent and Terry that they get their applications in. Oh, no, that's right. Terry has his in. Because we'd love to see him next year for sure. And then I think that was it. That's all I have. Marty? What? Oh, yes. Oh, that's right. That was the last one. So we get two, what do you call it? Virtual meetings per year that we can actually carry. And so December's meeting will be virtual. And the number one reason is because I'm having knee replacement surgery on November 30th, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get up and get here. So I figured yeah. I should be okay, but I figured, what the heck, we'll just go ahead. So that's going to be, and then we don't have any committee meetings in December. We do have the joint meeting, and hopefully as most of the people will be there. So that way we can put everything on consent. So that makes the board meeting. And the only reason we're having the December board meeting is something needs to be voted on that they're not ready for by November 16th. So other than that, okay, Marty.
I'd like to thank everybody for accepting me to this meeting since I'm the only one that doesn't have a jacket.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have nothing to say.
Guess I'll go. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans and their families. Thank you all for your sacrifice and their families and their service. Appreciate that, and happy Thanksgiving. Well, great to say happy Thanksgiving.
Mr. Kelly, you took everything I was going to say.
Sorry. You say ditto.
Ditto, and ditto to Mark's comments about
Mark's comments.
the committee meetings. They were excellent. And ditto to Thanksgiving and Veterans Day. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. And good luck on your surgery.
Yeah,
Oh,
good luck in your surgery.
Should be okay.
Yeah, also just really enjoyed the Water Resources Committee. That was great. And then the Finance Committee as well. I wanted to attend the CIP, but I had another thing I had to go to. So,
Marty was out.
thanks, Marty. Anyhow, that's it from me. Thanks.
As he always is.
I attended for the first time in 15 years living in Brambleton, actually attended a homeowners meeting because there was something on the agenda. And there was about a 20-minute discussion about our soon-to-be park at the reservoir. And 2 or 3 people who are kind of high up in the Brambleton hierarchy just spoke of how awesome it was that a utility would, build a park for the citizens. One person said one guy had worked for a utility, said never heard of anything like that before. And I was debating whether to say that I was on the board, but I decided not to do that and just take the compliment just in case there was something else. So that's all I have. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
So I first and foremost want to thank all of you on that side for all your service and all you do at Lawn and Water. Never goes amiss. And to all the others, our staff, Jewel, Carla, To the veterans, I decided to start wearing the badge today. To our veterans, to their families, to all the sacrifices that you made for our country. I can't thank you enough. We are here today because you're out there protecting our country, and you have protected our country, and you continue to do that. And also, just want to say happy Thanksgiving to all my board members, their families, all friends, and everybody. So be safe and be well.
Thanks. Jim?
Okay, like to also reflect everything that the chair said about those 3 meetings. They were awesome. And wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, Veterans Day, and a good holiday season. And anyone that's traveling or having surgery, the best of luck.
What city are you in?
That's not the city. I could get rid of that. I'm in Tucson right now.
No, I know, I've used that office scene many times.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in Tucson. Yeah, I can show you the.
Oh, Tucson's nice.
Wait, yeah, it's a small airport. We're waiting for the flight. So.
All right,
I have a
Go
little
ahead.
thing to add, a veteran story. I have a close buddy who was in Kabul in the Navy, believe it or not. And they always say that you're never supposed to lie to your wife. However, there are times when that makes sense. It would hit the news that there was an explosion in Kabul. So he's on the phone from Kabul with his wife, and she asked, was that explosion anywhere near you? That's the time that you lie. He said to her, oh, it's right around the corner, which was a goddamn stupid thing to say, and freaked her out totally. But there's just a story about the war.
all right, Mark is gonna give the general manager comments because I think Carla's on the phone, but her voice is not doing well right now.
That's right. Thanks, Mr. Kobelis, and good afternoon, board members. And Carla is on and listening, but just helping her out and kind of share some comments on her behalf. So a few things. This past week, and Carla had mentioned we were going to do this, these are upcoming, but we met with 4 of the Loudoun County supervisors, and those were 2 at a time. On Wednesday, on the 2nd, we met with Supervisors Turner and Glass, and then on Thursday, we met with Supervisors Kirschner and Umstead. And the purpose of those was to just share some of what we have been talking about around the PFAS issue that we shared with you all, and some updates and some of the things we're doing. And then we met at the Trap Rock Water Treatment Facility and provided a tour. Most of the supervisors have not seen that. And so those went very well. We had very positive feedback and really good discussion. So we're happy with the results of that. Also, beginning of last week, it was actually on the October 31st, our staff held an informational briefing with county staff. And the purpose of this and the topic was really all of the activities within the JLMA. And there's a number of things happening. You've heard about a number of the projects. There's a lot of overlap in all of that. And so as county staff in their review process gets assigned to these, we thought it'd be really helpful that they hear kind of the big picture, what's happening. And so the idea was to create some efficiency in the review process. This is an ongoing conversation we've had with county administration and how they can be helpful. So we had a really good turnout. I think we had 20 or a few extra staff members, great questions. And, we offered to do that for another one if need be, if some couldn't make it. So that went really well. In some sad news, our friend and partner, Paul Gilbert, of the executive director of Nova Parks, he lost his wife this past week to a long battle with cancer. And, it's a tough time for him. We've kind of known, a little bit of the news going on, but hadn't heard anything lately. So we're really feeling for him, and thoughts are with him, and sure yours will be too. Upcoming holiday schedule, we will be closed tomorrow for Veterans Day. And we're very thankful for all of the staff that we have that are veterans, and all those that have protected our freedom over time. Also coming up for Thanksgiving, we will be closed beginning at noon on Wednesday, the 23rd, and Thursday and Friday. And so we just also want to take this opportunity to thank you, board members, for all your service on the board. Couple stats, the ERCs through October totaled 1,730. With our mid-year revision, we're at 2144 was the, so we're about 80% with a couple months to go.
80% for the whole year?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And at 80%
Yep.
before we should be, right?
Yep. And then Mr. Koblus mentioned the upcoming meetings, but just, have those on the list. Again, next Wednesday, the 16th is the joint CIP and Finance Committee, and then the all virtual meeting in December. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Do we have anybody from the public here that would like to talk?
You don't have any sign up, so.
Okay, great. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Noisy building.
It's the heat hitting the, or something.
Do we need
It's the heat hitting the ductwork, right?
engineer?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see, Marty, you're up.
George, I think most of you have heard most of this. We have an item for approval of professional services contract amendment for the Broad Run Reclamation Facility Phase 3, design task number 1. As you probably all know, the project's going to be completed over multiple construction packages. The first design task includes project management for the first package, geotech for the first package, which is basically a site preparation of documents for certain procurement of shop drawings, and pilot testing related to improving PFAS. The CIP committee has recommended that the board authorize the general manager to execute an amendment to the Hazen and Sawyer contract to not to exceed cost of $7,910,000 with a 5% contingency to be controlled by the GM for a total authorized budget not to exceed $8,305,500. CIP committee recommended forwarding this to the November 10th board meeting as an action item. And I'll second what Mark said. The explanation for this project, which is complicated, was very well done and even got me to understand it, which is quite an achievement. The next item in the meeting was a capital construction quarterly report by Rick. It's pretty obvious that capital construction is being very well managed, much better than we did at Fairfax Water, even though we did pretty good there. And then there was the last thing was a capital spending monthly report by Tom. And that is that meeting.
Okay, Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had quite a lengthy meeting, so I have some stuff to go through. I apologize. The first item was fairly administerial. It's on consent today. It was the appointment of a citizen member to the local finance board. GASB 45 establishes standards for our post-employment benefit plan, and there's also a code in the Virginia that requires Loudon Water to form a local finance board to review the performance of our OPEB trust fund. And part of that code requires a citizen of the Commonwealth to be on the board. That citizen is Joseph D. Mason. He has served previously on the board, and he has agreed to serve another 2-year term. So that will run through November of 2024. The second item, which is also on consent, was the approval of write-off of uncollectible accounts. The total amount is $123,670. Keep in mind, this is for a 2-year period because of COVID. That amount represents 0.06 of our revenue for those 2 years. So it's in line with other previous write-offs. We had a lengthy presentation on the 2023 operating budget. Total revenues are forecast to be $161 million, which is a 3.35 increase over the previous year of 2021. Operating revenues forecast to be up 6.8%. Non-operating revenues forecast to be down 5.5%, but together it's a 3.3% increase. The non-operating revenues forecast down because of the decline in ERCs estimated for next year. Operating expenses for 2023, not including depreciation and amortization, are estimated at 83.5 million. This is 2.3 million higher, or roughly 3% of the 2022 adopted budget. Expenses, obviously, as we all know, are the driver for this increase, and those are system maintenance costs, chemical and electricity, and also personnel costs. The 2023 proposed budget will allow Water to remain in full compliance with all of our covenants on the revenue bond master indenture trust. The capital portion of the budget will be presented at our joint meeting, which is next Wednesday between CIP and finance. So we'll see that part of the budget. And then the complete budget will be presented at the December 8th board meeting. But the finance committee approves the budget as presented thus far to us. We had another excellent presentation. I think you, Mr. Chairman, you were referring to this from Jessica Dezar on Loudon Water's asset management program. The number one issue facing almost every utility is the renewal and replacement of aging infrastructure. We've built great programs into our system to help us with that. We have asset assessment, replacement planning, leak detection, cathodic protection, condition assessments, I&I reduction, rehab planning, and asset preservation. So all of these approaches are setting us up for protecting all of our assets as well as planning for future R&R expenses. So we were very excited with this program. It's diligent, concise, and forward-thinking. So the Finance Committee is really excited. We had a couple information items. Our quarterly investment review, we have 305 million in cash and equivalents. The average yield is 1.32%, which is 35 basis points higher than it was on June 30th. And from what I understand, it's creeping higher as we speak. And then we had a monthly financial summary as well. Operating revenues, 85.3 million, which is above our 82 million forecast. And non-operating revenues are 28 million, which is below the 30 million forecast. So we're a little behind on the ERCs. The good news is operating and non-operating expenses are 104 million, which is 7 million below our forecast. So we're in good shape on that front as well. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Jim, are you available to talk about your committee meeting?
I am.
Okay, good.
There may be some background noise, but our committee meeting started on time on November 1st, which we always like to do. The water resources topic of the day was introduced by Deputy Director Mark Peterson, and he gave us a good summary of what was going to be covered and introduced the two speakers. And the topic was reliability and resilience. This is very critical to us as a utility. We have to date, historically, and we see no reason for it to change, we've been very reliable. We've had a lot of good success in being a reliable utility. So, but there's a lot going on in our area, and Ms. Kennel, she went through the whole utility planning, the process, and what was going on with many of our neighbors, and how it interrelates to us and our planning. It was a really good presentation. It's available on YouTube. I watched it the other night. Funny to watch myself chairing a committee meeting, but it is available also on our corporate site. The second part was done by Mr. Gilbert. I mispronounced his name, Mr. Geldert. And that part of the presentation continued on that same theme of resiliency, reliability, and our planning process, and some interesting modeling tools. Brent asked some very, very good questions, and I think one of them was, can we see an example of some of the modeling tools? So that's for future meetings, and we'll plan some future meetings in the next quarter. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now or contact me individually. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept the consent?
So moved.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. On the action agenda, we have one item, the professional services contract. We did go through this in detail. I think Marty just wanted it because it was a large price, if I remember correctly. Is that why you put it on?
Yeah.
Okay. So hit the high points. I think that's.
They're all high points, right? Okay. So as we mentioned in some of the previous presentations, we really wanted to talk about some of the phasing that we've worked out on this large construction project. So we'll go through the phasing and the overall schedule and then dive into what is in Design Task 1, the amendment here today. So we showed this figure previously at the presentation, but what we want to talk about is, it's going to take 15 years, right, to implement and build this level of infrastructure expansion, but some of the items are time critical. So the very first package that will come out is in the dotted line that you see there. I'm not sure how to do, there we go. All right. So in this dotted line, it is our site prep package. So this is going to get out there and really start clearing away the stockpiles we have. We have a lot of rock to get out, and that will allow the main contractor to get started faster in the primary construction. We know our boundary for this expansion, so it's something that can easily move ahead while we work on developing the details of the rest of the design. The two in light blue will be our second construction package, and this is the first system expansion. It's going to focus on the solids processes. So it's our biological reactors, our membranes, and our new thermal drying facility that we've talked about, which will take us to Class A biosolids. We need these online by 2028, 2029. So what we want to do is have that package be designed by itself, constructed by itself, focus on the design critical aspects. The third package will come back and really start touching everything within the existing facility. On the right is more the greenfield style construction. We like having this individual package where it's all the existing, it's not as time critical. We can release that package, build it when we're ready. There's some good combinations here between, is it a new contractor or the existing contractor? And then in dark blue will be our fourth package that comes out and really finishes the rest of that expansion. There are a lot of benefits to this approach. It gives us flexibility in timing of the various expansions as we watch contract prices and see how things develop, how we're doing on the design side. It also allows us to allow some more time before we go in that final increment of expansion to make sure that we're looking at the right total design capacity for Broad Run. So when we look at these individually, I think it makes the site work make sense, right? You'll just have one civil contract out there doing a lot of digging, a lot of stripping, getting us prepared. That should run for about a year from 2025 to 2026. And we'll spend the next 2 years really talking in detail about these two packages. And this is what our first major construction looks like. So this will be a good 3-year construction period, and we'll talk about dollar values on the other side. So this in itself, even being the second package, is still a large undertaking, and we really want to keep the contractor focused. We're learning from what we're doing right now in the plant that a bunch of individual milestones does not work as well as individual contracts, so they have to finish what they've started. So when we start looking at the overall program, last time we spoke about the overall value. What you see now are what our estimated construction costs are. So site work, about 25 million. That first package getting us the BRB membranes and dryer, 200 million. A smaller package, about 65 on that implant. And finaling with the largest capacity increase at 250. These total the 540 in capital estimated from the previous presentation. That really leaves the 110 million is in these top bars that we've got design and construction services. These are going to be, really large value contracts because we have big infrastructure to design and get constructed. And when we started talking about packaging, this design period is long, right? You're spanning 10 years. There's a lot of uncertainty. So we also want to break that design into multiple contracts so that we can limit the build-in and of uncertainty and cost increases. So what that looks like is for these first two construction packages, we'll have the design task 1 that we've brought forward today. Design task 2 will be a much larger contract. We generally use that 10% rule of thumb, that 10% of construction would be a $20 million design contract. So big infrastructure comes with big design costs. But right now, the construction costs we're looking at are what we call parametric. We've looked at previous broad run designs and are just scaling costs to say it cost us X dollars to build an MGD, and we're scaling that up. So these are not detailed costs that we're now trying to justify a design fee for. So with this design task 1, we're including the basis of design report for all of this construction. Once we get that detailed report, we can get more detailed construction estimates for each of these packages, which bring us more justification for the design fees. You don't want to base a design fee off an unfirm number. The other strategy that we're pulling forward in this is we're going to have that cost estimate for each of these packages that comes forward with the basis of design report verified by a third party so that we have good justification that our construction dollars are sound and that it is a reliable number to base our design fee off of. And so we mentioned these numbers are parametric. The next construction numbers we build forward will be the first level of conceptual cost estimate. So this is our overall approach. My next slides are to dig into task 1. And so when we started looking at what we wanted in here, there are various pieces, and I wanted to walk through the scope in each of them. So as was mentioned, our project management here is going to span the 2-year time period generally that these tasks are going to take. The biggest task and most critical here is our basis of design report. This is the design for all of the future facilities, provides us some good consistency, but again, a very large undertaking. This is 8 different disciplines and 14 different process areas. When we start to look at the number of staff it's going to take to get this work done, which also helps us justify our fee, you know, when we go to even look at structural design for this, that's not one person. It'll be a lead structural engineer, several people underneath him. So this is currently estimated to be possibly 30 people working on just that basis of design report. And we've got a short schedule that we're trying to get this out in. The schedule is because we need to move forward with that second design task. It has the deadline to get online. So we want to compress as much as we can in these packages. Once the basis of design report is complete, we'll start, and this is plans, specifications, and bidding services for that first package of our site prep. This will also include the geotechnical and survey evaluations so that we get a good understanding of where rock is, because that will impact the overall design of the new facilities. We also have the development of documents for our pre-procurement. So this is a strategy that we also used on the membranes and the 16.5 expansion, but these detailed systems have to be designed themselves before we can lay out the facilities around them. So the strategy that we take is we are going to negotiate a procurement agreement with both the membrane manufacturer, and this will also apply to our thermal dryer. That allows us to select the manufacturer, and then Loudon Water will directly pay them for the development of shop drawings. That way we can design our facilities around the appropriate systems. That procurement contract is then transferred to our selected contractor, who will then be the one that pays for the overall procurement of the equipment. This relationship has worked very well in the 16.5 expansion, and we anticipate good success using that same procurement process here. The next task is additional evaluations. So there's a lot of evaluations lumped into this task, but I just wanted to walk through some of the added products that will come out of this work. So this will include our paper evaluation of looking at pyrolysis for our biosolids in addition to the thermal drying. This will give us a footprint, a capital cost, and also a better understanding of operationally what this additional process may require if we need to do that for PFAS removal. Also in these evaluations, this level of infrastructure is going to require more warehouse storage, more people space, more maintenance space. So we need an evaluation of what buildings are required for those additional facilities as we lay out overall for Broad Run. We've also got a digital strategy. We've talked about the machine learning tools that we've developed, but that is a lot of coordination between our consultants and our IT department. So we need a good 15-year plan on how these really technical tools will be developed so that IT is prepared with the right background to support the machine learning at the right time. We're also going to be looking at asset management through the building information systems. So all the new facilities that will go in will have a template established for this to have the kind of most cutting edge asset management built in. Our last line item is piloting, and this is a specific 3 phases of piloting focused on our liquid stream treatment. We already have granular activated carbon. We want to do piloting to further optimize the carbon for PFAS removal. Right now, we're using it for carbon removal and organic polishing. And so testing this at pilot scale is much faster, much more affordable, and then we can implement it full scale. So the fee breakdown for each of these items is summarized here. When we started checking some of these metrics on the cost, the project management is about 8% of the overall task cost that we have here. This is a similar percentage for project management that we had for our planning task. It's also similar in size to the project management that was done for the design of the 16.5 expansion. That was also a 2-year project. So the scale of those was really important. We're seeing similar meetings, similar numbers of hours, really just the increase in hourly price, which you assume as you go over time. The basis of design report is our biggest number in our breakdown. And as I mentioned, this is just the sheer number of people that it takes to do this work. But I just want to throw out there, it's a time and materials contract. So if we get to the end and it does not cost us that much, they will get paid for time spent. Design package 1 is the plans and specifications. This is a single discipline type work. So it's a lower 3% of that construction value, which is really in line for the level of complexity. Pre-procurement is development of specifications and general drawings so that the manufacturers know what they're giving us a cost for. It's the basis of their cost that they're providing to us. Our additional evaluations is, the 8 different studies that we've got lumped together for that. And then the piloting covers the 3 phases of piloting. It may even cover more than 2 years. It takes as long as it takes, and also has the cost of equipment that we'll purchase in there for the pilot scale units, all adding up to about $7.9 million for this first task. So any questions on this?
Got questions. Can you go back to the previous slide, please? So first question is, under the project management, the first phase, what is the timeline, the start timeline, the end timeline for the project management for the first phase?
So project management will start as soon as we can issue a notice to proceed. So we're hoping we get approval today, and that would be issued next month, and we'll run 2 years, which is where we expect most of this to wrap up. I mentioned the piloting might run on a little longer. We have a separate project management task that will cover that at its own schedule. But so that 2-year period will cover the main tasks in this box.
Okay. For the piloting part, I'm going to talk to other board members about that. In terms of piloting, I want to gain more background knowledge and understanding on that.
Okay.
Okay. Can you go back to the last slide, please? Thank you. So here, the task for project management, the first cell over there, it's 687,000 if I'm reading it right.
Mm-hmm.
Indra, I heard you mention it, correct me if I'm wrong, where you said, okay, it's, this is about the time and material, right? So with that being said, you know, we still have to pay for the time, right? What about the material then? Because I'm kind of, here's why I'm confused. So I want to frame it right so you can answer it correctly, right? So with the time and material, I understand that. So we still have to pay for the time. But what I don't understand is, say, for example, there's delays or, you know, or, God, I'm not thinking straight today, you know, defers, you know, or delays or something like that. My concern here on the board is, yes, we have to pay them, obviously, but what about the material? What about the other constraints that we have, right? Time and material, both is a cost. Understand the time, we talked and we agree on that, but the material part and other constraints of the project, right? I feel like I need a better scope of this to you follow me? If you don't,
Okay.
let me know. Yeah. Because I feel like I'm kind of, you know, in the weeds with this right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the material part of time and material is usually covered under other direct costs. And we have just rolled those in to the various line items, but they are broken out in our detailed breakout of the scope. I would say there's very little material built into project management. Honestly, most of our other direct costs are lumped up into the piloting, where we'll actually be purchasing that mechanical equipment for the piloting. Project management is really always based on a schedule. And if that schedule does start extending, we would look at how we can manage you know, their time appropriately, you know, if we need to use part of our contingency for an extended schedule. But that would be the only concern. I do think everyone on the project is committed to moving this forward, however, and I would say we don't have supply chain issues in design and things like that. So I feel like we're fully capable of completing this in the 2-year schedule that we have right now.
But in terms of the material, we can't negate the fact that we're still dealing with supply chain, you know, issues. So, right.
Yes.
Plus the rising incremental inflation as well, keeping that in mind as well, right? So, yeah, there are other contributing factors, but those are the two that, you know, puts a pressure point on me, you know, on the board. So, yeah. So the piloting part, I can't give an answer on the board about that because I feel like I personally, from speaking for myself, need more understanding on that.
Okay.
Thank you. But great presentation as well as Kendra. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, I had a question. Are there, I know Leesburg has a dryer. Are they the only?
So UOSA is the other one in the area that has a thermal dryer. Both of them, both Leesburg and UOSA, are the same manufacturer that we are looking at. But I would say nationwide, there's quite a few of these. And with the PFAS regulations coming forward, the industry as a whole is really turning to thermal drying because we know it's a process that after that, we can move forward with additional PFAS treatment.
Right. So we're using the same manufacturer that they used.
Pretty much because it's the only available manufacturer at this size.
Kind of a niche.
Yeah.
Thing. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a big business they're building.
So any competitors that are out there, and we did have a workshop to go through all the competitors that are very limited size. So for those, we would need 7 trains of dryers if we considered them, where with this manufacturer, we can go with 2.
Sweet. Oh, that's great. And then land development wise, are we going to wait to do clearing until we've done some geotech work, or do we do clearing first, or what are you planning to do there?
Yes, so the geotech work will start right away when we go on this. So that way it's known exactly where we need to clear. We'll have most of our foundation set, so we know how deep we need to go really quickly in the process.
Is the plan to take the excess cut and take it off-site, or are we just going to store it on-site, or do we not know yet?
We're pretty much out of on-site storage space, but we actually do get requests. So Rick fields those requests of people interested in our stockpiles.
And do we have any sense, our soil is usable, or is this like, it's got to go, it's unsuitable soil that'll be coming off here? We just don't know yet.
I would say we don't have that information yet.
That's fine. That's fine. Great. I think, oh, the only other question I had, it reminded me a little bit of when we were doing Trap Rock. It just, to me, this just seems like a lot of complexity. And Trap Rock was very complex too. So yeah, I'm sure whatever lessons we learned from Trap Rock, I'm sure they're being incorporated into this, but I just making note of that. This just feels like such a complex thing. When you mentioned 30 different people, I mean, that's so
Yes.
difficult doing that, all those various areas of expertise. Very challenging. So, but seems like you'll have a great handle on it, but it certainly seems like it has the potential to be like Trap Rock, where it's just taking longer than expected because of that complexity.
Sorry, just one. So just on what you said, complexity, like in terms of the dynamics of the work or complexity in terms of what?
Oh, well, just like she said, there's so many areas of expertise. So
Yeah.
you need an expert on this. And it's one of those things where that person plus this person plus this person plus this person to make an informed decision. And so it just slows everything down. It just creates difficulty there. So, and you have all these pieces that have to work together. And when something doesn't work together, you have I'm trying to remember, we had the issue with the pumps or whatever, Trap Rock, but it had to be a certain type of pump and the thing was rocking and we couldn't figure out what was wrong with that. And so there's just a lot of complexity. I mean, there's a lot of complexity in a system like this.
Thank you.
Keith?
Yes. Hi, Kendra. I want to get a little bit of clarification with the design services task to Hazen and Sawyer. You know, we're talking about potentially at some point there'll be overlapping design services going on. I'm assuming that'll be a separate contractor brought in for a second one, or I guess we won't know at this point, but even without knowing, or unless you know already.
Right, so Hazen and Sawyer will provide the engineering services for the full scope of the program. So
Okay.
when we did the RFP in 2021 and selected Hazen, they were selected for the overall work. We
Okay.
do that to maintain consistency of the design engineer through all the design pieces and the construction services, because Loudon Water has found that approach really works best for us. The construction contractor would be open. Each one would be bid to competition. And so that would
Okay.
have the potential to have more than one construction contractor work.
Well, that's great. That eliminates one of the questions we're having. But in terms of, are you envisioning two separate teams that are running parallel? One for design task one for design task two, and then they've got to have some type of communication channels to pass along
Yes.
the design services output from one to the other? Is that? just
We
curious?
have, so we've had a lot of conversations with Hazen and their team about this and making sure that we understand their approach and how it's going to be implemented. And yes, so there will be one cohesive team doing that basis of design report, and then they will break out and there will be a design package 2 team, a design package 3. It also helps the way we've broken out the processes, that you can get people based on the expertise of the processes from the different design packages moving at once. But that's another thing we like about the phasing, is it allows us, if we don't want to, we don't have to overlap it. If Hazen is getting behind, we can say, no, we're just not starting that next phase yet. We want your staff dedicated and completing this phase. If we get ahead, we can say, all right, like we're doing great. Let's move this other one up and gain a little time. We're confident we can do these parallel, but it leaves it in our decision how much they overlap, not theirs. And we really like that ability to have that control.
I'm just curious, are they envisioning having a program management office structure where it's a program management office that's overseeing the overall task and each project is its own project that rolls up, something of that nature?
I would really say most consulting firms have really adopted that structure these days, particularly with the development of design centers. They'll have, one office that has all their structural engineers and all their electrical engineers. And then you'll have your local project managers really running the work out of the design services. So I think that model works really well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Go ahead, Terry.
I have some historical questions. So when was the Broad Run originally built? 2004, is that when we started?
It was completed in 2008.
2008. We spent $190 million on that?
So
Is this a test?
Yes.
Poor
I
Kendra, come
have-
on.
Well, I'm
I came prepared for this test.
All right, let me rewind a little. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
I'm
total
trying to
construction
understand this.
cost was 190 million.
I'm trying to understand the scope.
Okay.
And so I'm looking back, historically, so we got 10 MGD basically for 190 million. Right now, we're spending how much on the expansion that's going on right now?
So right now, this
Approximately, I mean.
this one was, 80 million, so
80 million.
77 million.
Okay, and that's gonna take us from 10 to 15.
Correct.
Okay,
But you can't forget the interim biosolids project. So that was needed to actually get the biosolids up to 10,
okay,
which is also another 17 million.
all right. So now we're gonna spend 650 million.
Yes, because you have to scale those up to today's dollars, which we have. And then after we scaled it, there's a difference of about 150 million because we are building 30 MGD of a new biosolids technology. So there's the additional cost in addition to scaling those past costs to get pretty much whole plant capacity of a Class A biosolids technology.
So what's gonna be our total MGD in 15 years from now?
30 MGD average annual.
Okay.
You'll also notice that we throw around like 15 MGD versus 16.5. That max month number is important to us from a permitting. So it would be 33 MGD on a max month basis.
Okay. Does that make sense where I was?
That's actually a very good question. I see now where you're going. I thought,
No, it started out
Kendra, I was
poorly,
like,
I
oh my
admit, but
goodness.
No,
Yeah, we have looked at that, but that's when I say these costs were developed parametrically, they were developed from the phase 1, phase 2 and interim biosolids, and then we scaled them up to get to these. We don't have that component by component estimate yet of these new facilities, and that's what we'll have to bring back to you after the BODR.
Okay.
So it'll be the best truth check of those cost numbers when we come back next time.
all right, thank you.
So thank you for the part about the basis of design report, because I was having a real hard time getting my arms around that cost based on how many people and dividing it by years and dollars. And I can see now where it is. And also Marty and I spent a lot of time prior to the CIP committee meeting asking a bunch of questions to make sure that, that all our questions were answered before the committee meeting. And a lot, it certainly was. And I'm, after going through all this, I can't speak for Marty, but I'm fully going to support this cost. Are there any other questions? Jim, you okay?
One minor question. These design teams, are they all located in the same place or are they spread out in different locations?
They'll be spread out.
When you say spread out in Washington area or out of?
No, various cities. It's really the way designs are done these days at the consulting firms. And it's what allows you to have the number of people required to get a job like this done. If you tried to rely on one office, they would need to hire 30 people all of a sudden now to try to do Broad Run's job. So it allows the consultants to use their nationwide resources to scale up for a project like this.
Mute that man.
June?
It was born in this airplane.
Yeah, you unmuted, please.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
a question.
Just another question.
There we go.
Mark, you asked me a question. I'm ready to move the motion.
He's what? Oh, okay.
We're ready. One more
I'm
question.
I'm ready to move the motion.
Yeah, there's still some more questions here though, Jim. Hold on.
Just I know we've had many presentations on this. Just a reminder again, what is driving this? It's a big number. What's the driver behind the expansion?
The
Drivers, I guess.
behind the expansion absolutely is the continued increasing of wastewater flows into Broad Run and looking at getting ahead of that. So we've taken small increment increases to the plant, and that is really labor intensive. So we would like to make a bigger increment so that we can get capacity online ahead of when it is needed. The other key factor that we brought up previously, when you look at water treatment capacity that we have available, we have 70 MGD total of water treatment capacity. Total right now, we have 23.8 MGD of wastewater treatment capacity. So we need more wastewater infrastructure to be able to match the amount of water that we would be able to provide. We also looked at the buffer, the available capacity over the wastewater use of our neighboring utilities, and we have the lowest available capacity buffer of any of the Northern Virginia utilities, with the highest amount of growth, the highest chance of service area changes. So we need additional excess capacity to be able to respond to things we can't predict happening in the collection system.
So is it, Kendra, is it tied to the county's estimate of additional growth over many years? Is that
Yes,
part
it
of the
is.
driver based on their estimate of knowing that there's pauses and there's spikes and?
When we looked at how much capacity we might need, we did, our very first projection is wastewater flow generated by their population projection.
Okay.
We add on top of that some uncertainties, what I would call them, increased I&I, increased wet weather, also available buffer for what is unpredicted, like changes like the JLMA. To get to a 30 MGD will cover us for projected population increase and provide that buffer we need for unanticipated changes.
And is there any pressure from Blue Plains at all in their capacity to say that they're running out of room and so we need to wrap up?
So I would say there's not pressure because the contracts we have are very sound and they, they contractually have to take that 13.8. We have asked them if they would take additional capacity on our behalf. And that is a big machine to try to move in that direction. Fairfax County has also joined us in that ask. So, if Blue Plains actually came forward with maybe 5 MGD of extra capacity in our phasing, that third phase can be adjusted to account for something like that. So we're leaving those doors open. But the other way, like them taking less of our flow, I don't see as something that's hanging out there.
All right, thanks.
This concept is good in case there's a drastic change in projections from the county, either lower or whatever. It gives you a chance to call a halt to it or slow
Yeah,
things down.
exactly.
It's a very good concept.
So my favorite graph that we have, and I don't think I've ever presented it here, is all of the county's population projections over the year. So we're hearing that they're going to push growth out, but increase that total number. They do that every 5 years. It goes up and out. And when you stack them all up, it turns into straight line growth, which is exactly what we see in our wastewater flows. They continue to go up. And when it takes us 15 years, we have to start building now to get ahead of that population that continues going out and up. It just keeps following.
And the other thing, like this thermal dryer, some of this is to respond to concerns about PFAS and so forth. So that'll give us some new tools to address some of that.
Yeah, so the going to Class A biosolids, it's a better product. It's been dewatered further, has additional pathogen destruction. It reduces the volume of biosolids we will produce. So that helps in hauling costs and opens up more disposal options for us. The farmers also prefer it because it's a pellet, just like the pellet that they buy a fertilizer. They can spread it with the same equipment. So it's a really valuable increase in that.
So Kendra, I think that's a great tagline to champion, is that our excess capacity percentage is the lowest in the area. That's an incredible fact that you just told me. Brent, did you have a comment? You look like you were getting ready to say.
I still think it's appropriate that we read these motions again for.
Oh, yeah,
people
yeah,
all
sure,
online
sure.
or whatever.
That's
all.
I think I had one more thing though. Hold on. You distracted me. I know I'm one of the old men in the group, according to Angeline. No, yeah, go ahead. No, I can't remember it, so go ahead. Wasn't that big?
Then I'm gonna read this motion. I move the board authorize the general manager to execute an amendment to the professional services contract with Hazen and Sawyer for the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Phase 3 expansion project for design task 1 with an estimated not to exceed cost of $7,910,000 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget not to exceed $8,305,500. Additional costs will require board approval.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Jim's a yes?
I'm a yes. Aye.
Okay. Did we get a vote from Angeline?
I'm the type of person, openly, I'll say that if I have unknowns, then I will be neutral about it, Kendra. I apologize. So,
Well, you can abstain if you want, or say no.
no.
Okay.
Thanks, Kendra.
Thank you all.
Now it's up to Brian to find the money. That's the real pressure.
We will be
Big
showing,
numbers, yeah.
we will talk about the draft 5-year plan impact at your joint meeting.
Okay, great.
Next week, yes.
Okay. All right, no new business, no informational items. Sally with the finance summary. Any questions, any comments? All right, water resources management. Any questions, comments? Water and sewer. Quarterly reports. Are there any questions or comments on any of the reports? Terry has a question.
There was a violation letter, Alton. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll notice on the quarter 3 operations and maintenance report, there was an oversight and we missed the collection of a bacteriological sample in one of our contract operated facilities, the Bluemont Community Center. It's stated in there, this is a tier 3 violation, which is the lowest classification. What that means is per VDH policy, the utility has up to a year to report these violations in order to give the utility time to assess and consolidate those reportings to VDH, but we reported it immediately. And we went ahead and collected that sample and made sure everything was all right, but it was really an administrative and scheduling oversight on our part. So take any other questions.
Thank you.
So we've rectified this situation.
Yes.
Okay.
It sounds like we rectified it pretty quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any comment from the public since the public was notified? No. Any concerns? Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. Any closed meetings, Amanda? Okay. Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.